Sell out fast. Live from Waterford and the Virgin Media Broadband Studio in Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Eimear McKeown. Today's top stories. A solar farm in North County Waterford has been given the go-ahead by On Board Pleanála. Waterford Council boss has described concern around an economic strategy document as an overreaction. And in sport, Waterford are in Scotland to take on Eimear in the Challenge Cup tonight. A solar farm in North County Waterford has been given the go-ahead by On Board Pleanála. The board has granted planning permission for the farm at two sites in the townlands of Curraduff and Mothill, despite objections from local residents. WLR's Sinead Ahern reports.
The NRGN Mothill Limited was initially granted planning permission by Waterford Council in May, subject to 22 conditions. The company said the farm would provide enough power for approximately 7,200 homes. However, it was appealed to On Board Pleanála by 56 residents. They included concerns that the development would have detrimental effects on health, well-being and the agriculture environment, would be out of context with the scenic nature of the area and devalue property. Noise output is within relevant threshold and there's no evidence that property value would be impacted. They added that they expect there'll be community gains in terms of employment. In its deliberations, On Board Pleanála said the farm would not have an unacceptable impact on biodiversity and it would make a positive contribution to Ireland's requirement for renewable energy. It decided to grant conditional planning permission. One of the conditions changed the 30-year operational period of the farm to 25 years.
The UK and EU are entering final high-level Brexit negotiations after the meeting between Leo Varadkar and Boris Johnson yesterday. EU countries have been briefed on the details of their discussion, which are being kept highly secretive. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
You're going to hear a lot over the next 48 hours about the tunnel. It's Brussels jargon for private, highly secretive talks between small groups of officials aimed at hammering out a deal away from prying eyes. It's among the highest level of negotiations in the Brexit process, meaning that whatever Leo Varadkar and Boris Johnson agreed to yesterday is significant enough for both sides to genuinely think a deal can be reached. Earlier, Leo Varadkar wasn't giving much away, though, about what it was they agreed.
I think at this stage probably the less said the better. Focus today very much switches to Brussels.
EU Chief Negotiator Michel Barnier briefed other EU countries this afternoon but said there's quite a bit of work still to be done.
Brexit is like climbing a mountain. We need vigilance, determination and patience.
Talks will now enter the so-called tunnel, which is very significant. Both sides are staying quiet on what they've actually agreed, but it likely involves some come down from the UK on customs. While progress has clearly been made, there's only little over a week to have this all signed, sealed and delivered before the UK would have to request an extension.
The Chief Executive of Waterford Council has described concern around an economic strategy document as an overreaction. The Regional Spatial and Economic Strategy identifies future growth and opportunities for Ireland's cities and large towns. Proposed amendments to the document have been met with concern and anger by the Chamber of Commerce and local councillors, who also fear it's downgrading Waterford. But Council CEO Michael Walsh says he's satisfied overall with the position the document takes towards Waterford.
There are, as of now, a set of material amendments proposed that are in the public domain. They need to be read in conjunction probably with two other documents, which are the original draft, which is a very substantial document, and equally directors' reports relating to it. And on the whole, to be honest about it, there's been a little bit of perhaps overreaction in some respects, because on the whole I'd be happy enough with the policy position, generally speaking, in the context of Waterford.
However, Fine Gael councillor John Cummins says questions remain over the document. He pointed to how a population size of 16,000 was excluded from analysis of Waterford's metropolitan area, in contrast to Limerick. This was due to Tramore not being included in the review of the city and its environs.
If you look at the metropolitan area in Limerick, the population is 105,000. Under the Rhesus document, it says that it's 104,952. Only 374 of a population in the difference. 374 versus 16,000. Now that has ramifications down the line, and it's artificially making us look smaller than what we are in reality.
Waterford Disability Network says people parking in disabled parking bays without a proper permit is a huge problem. It's after a Dungarvan man has been disqualified from driving for 3 months for the offence. Dara Power, with an address at Keating Street, Dungarvan, was fined €500 at Dungarvan District Court and put off the road for 3 months for failing to pay a fixed charge penalty notice of €150. Speaking to Damien Tiernan on Daisha Today, Sean Rohan of Waterford Disability Network says he's glad the fixed charge is being enforced.
The 150 initial fine, I think, is a very good idea. It's great to see it actually being enforced, and more importantly, that people are made aware of it, as many people are not, because there are few enough disabled parking bays as it is, and it's very inconvenient, to put it mildly, when they're taken up by people who don't have the designated sticker.
Up to 100 people gathered outside Waterford City Hall yesterday to support the Haven Hotel in Dunmore East. The Save the Haven group say they're supporting the business as it fights to hold on to its marquee. The marquee caters for weddings and other large events. However, planning permission was refused in recent weeks. Neil Jackman had his wedding in the Haven 5 weeks ago.
The setting was fantastic, the weather was fantastic, the food was fantastic. The whole day couldn't have gone any better. It was just perfect. We had 130 in the marquee. My best man came from Australia for it. Again, we were down around the village every night over the space of a couple of weeks, meals out and a couple of drinks, and generally just enjoying it. We had friends down from Mayo, we had friends down from Kerry. They all stayed locally in B&Bs and they stayed in hotels. There was a couple of them had houses for the full week.
Climate change protesters in Waterford say they fully support Extinction Rebellion. 5 activists from the group were arrested in the capital last night after protesters chained themselves to the gates of Leinster House. They used bicycle locks to attach themselves to the metalwork before they were removed at around midnight. Around 60 people working at government buildings were unable to leave, including 20 TDs and senators. A protest took place at the Apple Market in Waterford City earlier. These demonstrators say they back Extinction Rebellion's cause.
We need change, and if someone's passionate about something, they will do anything to get it, and I support them in every way possible.
All it is just the attitude of, look, come on kids, we know better. Listen to the grown-ups. And all it is just trying to beat you down, trying to shut you up, take your voices down. Sure, the generation, the elites, the people on top, were telling us to be more sure about it. Sure, they're the ones who left us with basically, 12 years to fix the mess they've been doing for generations.
WLR Sport.
Very good afternoon, I'm Gavin Whelan. Starting with soccer, Waterford FC are in Scotland preparing for this evening's Scottish Challenge Cup 4th round game against Stenhouse Muir in Oakview Park. The Scottish League 2 side have improved greatly in recent times. They've won their last 3 games under the guidance of caretaker manager Davy Irons. The confidence will be high in the Blues camp as well after back-to-back league victories over St Patrick's Athletic and Sligo Rovers on Tuesday. Speaking after that victory over the Bit of Red, the Blues manager Alan Reynolds said he has picked his team already for tonight's clash.
Scotland's a tricky one because I wanted to bring some of the 19s, but I wasn't sure whether they were playing, and we had to book the flights, say, 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago. So I couldn't do that to Gary Hunt by taking, say, Colin Whelan, Alex Phelan, etc., just in case he had a game. So Tara Power will go and he will start. I've told him the team down there already because we won't train before Friday. We fly out Thursday night.
Best of luck to the Blues this evening in Scotland. Kick-off there is at 7:35. Elsewhere, the Republic of Ireland senior squad will train at the match venue in Georgia later ahead of tomorrow's Euro 2020 qualifier. Shane Duffy and Aaron Connolly looking to impress manager Mick McCarthy as they bid for a starting berth tomorrow. England can book their place at Euro 2020 this evening. Gareth Southgate's side would qualify for next summer's finals by winning away in the Czech Republic. Closer to home, there's 3 games in the SSE Electricity League Premier Division this evening. Champions Dundalk make the trip to Europa League place chasing Bohemians. Shamrock Rovers play host to Finn Harps in Tala, and basement side UCD go to Cork City. Meanwhile, former Sunderland striker Kevin Phillips says he wants to be the club's next manager. The League One side are without a boss after sacking Jack Ross. Phillips hopes the club takes a chance on him. Next to news of Gaelic Games, and Stephen Malumphy says he's looking forward to his role as selector with the Waterford senior hurling team. The Ballyduff clubman was appointed selector along with former player and captain Stephen Frampton earlier this week. Malumphy captained the Daisha to Munster glory in 2010 and last year worked with Davy Fitzgerald's Wexford, who lifted the Leinster title. Stephen Malumphy says he's delighted to get involved with his native county.
You can give me a shout. This just asked if I was interested, and maybe I'd consider it. And I suppose, I didn't see it coming, to be honest. I suppose with Wexford last year. It was a great year, and I suppose they were kind of getting the team established to go back again. And when you gave me a call, to be honest, it's always a big lure back to your home county, and again it would be an honour to be involved. So it just took a few days, obviously just with my wife, suppose the real boss, to see if she'd commit to another year of me being on the road. I know it didn't. To be honest, it's something you'd love to get involved with, and you're trying to help Waterford hurling and got back onto Liam, but he was delighted, and here we are now at the moment.
Liam Sheedy, meanwhile, will remain on as manager of the Tipperary senior hurlers for another year. The Portroe native guided the Premier County to the Lee McCarthy Cup back in August. Sheedy quit straight after winning the All-Ireland Championship during his first spell in charge in 2010, but he will stay as Tip look to go back-to-back for the first time since 1965. Ballygunner and De La Salle will face off in the county senior hurling final for the fourth time on Sunday in Welsh Park. De La Salle won their last county final in 2012. Former Waterford hurler even Brian Phelan is in his first year in charge and says that Sunday's final is his biggest challenge to date.
It's a very, very difficult task. Like Ballygunner are going for 6 in a row. I think they're 1-5 on. There's a reason for that. So it's a massive task. But sure, look, it's all in the day, and we'll be giving our best. So hopefully we'll be good enough on the day.
You can hear the full interview with Brian Phelan on this evening's Lorna Porca here on WLR. Throw-in is at 3. The game will be live on WLR with commentary team Kieran O'Connor and Shane Ahern, thanks to George Corbett Skoda. The Irish coaching team have expressed their concerns about the pitch ahead of tomorrow's match against Samoa at the Rugby World Cup. The surface has been relayed in Japan following the game between France and the USA last week, and players were able to lift up sections of the pitch during the captain's run this morning. Australia lead Georgia 17-3 in the second half in their match in Pool D. The Wallabies, they're leading that one, and Scotland say they'll take legal action against World Rugby if their World Cup match with Japan is cancelled. England against France and New Zealand's game with Italy have both been dropped due to Typhoon Hagibis, with both sides awarded 2 points. That is the latest on WLR. More at 2.